I might not be that high on Oklahoma, but I can see it. Like, I can see the possibility of it. It's not outside the realm of possibility for me. What's it going to take, though? It's going to take good trench work. We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, I asked this question both on our Locked On Sooners Twitter account and on our YouTube page. Make sure you subscribe to that. Be part of the conversations. Follow us on social media. But what is the biggest question for Oklahoma going into fall camp? And I'm not going to say it was unanimous, but it was unanimous, like 95%, like almost unanimous, basically within the margin of error. Offensive line is everybody's biggest question going into fall camp.
Yeah, because everybody wants to know how healthy we're going to be. And there's a lot of facts that goes behind that. I've seen, like, you have basically Taylor, Everett, Sexton, Branson Hickman when he was here was hurt, Bates, Tarquin, Hatchett. All of them missed substantial amount of time. Febechi Nwaiwu was the only one that gave you a full season. But Brent Venables even said this, John, at SEC Media Days. They asked him about the Alabama win. And I really loved his response because, Cliff's notes of this, basically what he said, and you probably can find it on our Locked On, either on the Twitter account or on the channel here in the shorts or on the TikTok. Probably go check out TikTok. It's probably easy for you to find it there. But, Brent Venables answered that, and he's like, that was an example of what this team was supposed to be all season. That was the game we were all healthy. That was the game that we were playing consistent ball. That's the game that shows you what this team was supposed to have been the entire season. And it was a great example. We knocked off the number 7 team in the country, knocked them out the playoffs. For us, that was a huge win, not only in just saying that we finally got ourselves a win, and we at that point we were bowl eligible, but it was a big time reminder and confidence of, no, we can do this. All we need to do is make sure that the players that we need to play go out there. And don't get it twisted. Bama has a big defensive line. They got a lot of NFL dudes on the defensive line going into this coming draft. And so because of that, we reminded everybody that we have the talent to be able to compete in the SEC when you're playing a team like this, in which Alabama was destroying. I mean, heck, they beat up on Georgia. Georgia won the SEC championship. Like, don't get it twisted. That became a shootout, and it was just a battle back and forth, but they did that. And so because of that, we know what this team is capable of, John. That game will forever remind you, hey, if you're healthy, you can do this. We just need them to be healthy. But the good thing is, John, I think we've got 2 deep, and we should be safe going into the season for these Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, and the offensive line had a really good game in that one. But you also got really good performances from Xavier Robinson and Jackson Arnold running the football. And that's a lot of what it's going to take to go win games this year, is the offensive line creating lanes for this team to run the ball. Right now, I think most people are projecting an offensive line of Jacob Sexton at left tackle, Pierre Louis at left guard, but don't sleep on Heath Ozida either. The dude played over 600 snaps last year. Troy Everett at center, although there's some buzz out there that Jake Maikkula could come in and push him for that starting center job. And then at right guard, you got Febechi Nwaiwu, and then you got at right tackle Derek Simmons. I think that's probably most people's projected starting 5 along the offensive line. And it's a good mix of experience, transfer portal additions, blue chip guys that you recruited in Sexton and Pierre Louis. And again, Heath Ozida was a 4-star prospect in his own right. So it's going to be intriguing to see how that all plays out. But to me, that is ultimately the key. John Mateer could be great. Jaden Ott could be fantastic. Xavier Robinson, Taylor Tatum, Javonte Barnes could be wonderful. The wide receivers could be really, really good. But if the offensive line isn't good, you're going to have a really hard time winning enough games to go in the SEC, as Matt Hayes believes that they can, or contending for a college football playoff spot. And that's where it all starts, up front, along the offensive line for Oklahoma. We knew this going into last year. The story is the same going into this year. You got to be good up front, and hopefully they're a little bit better. Hopefully they're a lot healthier. Hopefully they have consistency, and they're going to be able to build that chemistry. We don't know of any significant injuries throughout the offseason that have limited anybody. We do know that there were cleanup procedures done on Logan Howland and Heath Ozida, but that's different. And Jake Taylor. That's different. Like, that's not, you had these guys in fall camp or in spring ball and they got injured and now you're not sure if they're going to be available for the start of the season. Okay, you got to see what they're going to do in fall camp. But the 5 that you're projecting to be starting for you, they're healthy going into fall camp. And that's a great place to start.
That's what you want. And for those 3, they'll be ready. They're slated to be here for fall camp. So again, that gives you a 2 deep. Plus, you're going to add Fasusi and Fogier into that scenario. And that's 2 additional components to go along with the transfers you brought in Baklenko, as well as Maikkula and Derek Simmons. So you add, that's 5 more players that 3 of them have experience playing ball against some really good defensive lines. Don't get it twisted. The ACC has some solid defensive lines, so they've seen some stuff. Derek Simmons has to prove himself, but he's big enough. As long as he's got a technique down, he'll be fine because he's going to be really hard to move. Dude is very country strong. But when you bring in Fasusi and you bring in Fogier, though, John, a couple of players that already have the size and ready to play at this level, you don't have to throw them out immediately either.
Right.
But if they figure it out against, they're going against one of the best defensive lines in the country, and that they're able to figure it out early, give them a few spot snaps here or there, but that gets you 2 deep easily. So now you're not as concerned if you have an injury, someone comes out, you've got a couple freshmen you're willing to play today. You can even probably go even a little bit down to the 3rd deep. That's just how many players you have on this roster that have experience playing in this conference and being beat up. Remember, we've seen some of these guys win and we've seen them lose, John. So Bill Beatonbow understands, okay, you fix your technique here. You get better at anchoring here. You get better at your hand placement here. You'll be able to compete, because the ones that they didn't feel like could compete, they went in the portal. Please believe. They hung on to the ones they wanted to keep.
Yeah, another guy that we haven't really mentioned that Brent Venables made a point to mention when Brandon Drum asked him during SEC Media Days, who are some young guys that you're expecting to contribute this year? Daniel Akinkunmi.
Yep.
The UK product that came to Oklahoma. UK Dan, redshirted last year, didn't really play much. Got a few snaps, but nothing really significant. He mentioned him by name, and I don't think that that's by accident. If anything, it's just showing, hey, this is a guy that's done the work that we've asked him to do this offseason. I'm going to reward him by at least giving him some positive pub going into the season. So, I mean, if he's on your 3 deep, if he's one of your 3rd team guards, like, that's still pretty solid. Again, it's a guy that's developing. It's a developmental game. You got to keep developing these guys. But if you feel confident enough in a player that you're willing to mention him by name at SEC Media Days, there's something to that player. So we didn't really get to talk about the defensive line. We'll have to do that on tomorrow's show, Jay. But I think we're both feeling fairly comfortable that the offensive line is going to be better than what it was last year.
Yeah, there's no reason for it not to be. We've seen what it looks like when it's healthy and it's ready to play. And we know Bill Beatonbow is still the offensive line coach. So this is the most veteran. This is the 2nd most veteran offensive line we've had in the BV era, in the Brent Venables era. 2023 is probably the most veteran one that had the most snaps and the most dudes with continuity. And then you had a 1st rounder there in Tyler Guyton. And so this year, you'll probably get closer to that. And heck, if things go right with the quarterback spot, with John Mateer showing up and showing out, and Jay Knott, this could be the best line that Brent Venables had. This is already the best roster that Brent Venables has had. This could end up being the best line, period.
Just to run this down real quick before we get out of here and talk non-conference schedules in the next segment. Jacob Sexton has 991 career snaps. Pierre Louis, only 65 snaps. He's a young guy. You're expecting him to continue to develop. Troy Everett, 1,400 snaps. Febechi Nwaiwu, 2,400 snaps. Derek Simmons, 1,500 snaps. And then in your 2 deep, Jake Maikkula, Luke Baklenko, Heath Ozida, Logan Howland, all have at least 500 snaps to their ledger.
Look at that.
That stuff is valuable. Having experience is valuable,
Huge.
especially for guys like Heath Ozida and Logan Howland. Not everything went great for them last year, but they got better. They had some good moments. They showed some flashes of potential. Just keep leaning into that, keep developing that, and let's see where they go. So much has been made about conference schedules, non-conference schedules from the Big Ten, the ACC, SEC, Big 12. Everybody's talking about schedules. Let's talk about the future non-conference schedules for the Oklahoma Sooners and who might be some potential options with some open dates on the calendar coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.